Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the most controversial papal conclaves in history. That's right, we're talking about the selection process of the Pope, a process that, for centuries, involved a bunch of old men in funny hats locking themselves in a room until one of them emerged as God's new bestie. Now you might think, choosing the head of the Catholic Church, that's got to be a civilized affair. And to that I say, oh, sweet summer child, you clearly haven't met the Catholic Church. Buckle up, because we're about to uncover a world of power struggles, backstabbing, and enough scandals to make a Renaissance prince blush. Get ready for a tale of power, intrigue, and bribery. Our first stop takes us back to the 13th century, a time when personal hygiene was a loose suggestion and papal elections were just as messy. Enter the conclave of 1294. After the death of Pope Nicholas IV, the cardinals found themselves in quite the pickle. They'd been bickering over a successor for months, unable to agree on who should get the fancy hat and the God phone. This gridlock dragged on for so long that the citizens of Perugia, where the conclave was being held, decided to intervene. And how did they do this, you ask? Well, they literally walled up the cardinals inside the building, cutting off their food supply and even removing part of the roof. Talk about pressure tactics. Eventually, a hermit by the name of Pietro Angelerio was suggested as a compromise candidate. Now, Pietro was a deeply pious man, known for his simple life and devotion to prayer. He was also completely unqualified for the job, and he knew it. When messengers arrived to tell him he was Pope, he literally tried to run away. Eventually, they convinced him to take the job, and he became Pope Celestine V. But, predictably, being Pope was a bit more than this holy hermit could handle. Imagine trading in your solitary cave for the political viper pit that was the 13th century Vatican. After just 5 months, Celestine V did what any sane person in his position would do. He quit! He issued a papal bull declaring it was okay for popes to resign, and then he hightailed it back to his cave. You got to respect a man who knows his limits, even if those limits involve the papacy. Fast forward to 1378, and things hadn't gotten any less dramatic in the world of papal elections. In fact, they'd gotten a whole lot worse. After the death of Pope Gregory XI, the cardinals gathered in Rome, a city known for its history, its beauty, and its tendency to erupt in violence with alarming regularity. The pressure was on, and the people of Rome wanted a Roman pope, or at least an Italian one. Enter Cardinal Bartolomeo Prignano, who, despite sounding like a background character in a Godfather movie, was elected Pope Urban VI. Now, Urban VI, well, let's just say he wasn't exactly known for his diplomacy or his chill. In fact, he was kind of a jerk. He quickly alienated the French cardinals, who were used to having a bit more, shall we say, influence over the papacy. They declared Urban VI's election invalid, claiming they were pressured by the Roman mob, and decided to elect their own pope, Clement VII. And just like that, bam, the Western Schism was born. For the next 39 years, the Catholic Church had 2 popes, each claiming to be the one true representative of God on earth. This wasn't just a theological debate, it had real political and religious consequences. Countries across Europe were forced to choose sides, leading to confusion, conflict, and a whole lot of awkward family reunions. It was a mess, a glorious, scandalous mess. Chapter 3, 1492, the Borgias, a family affair. And by family affair we mean bribery and debauchery. The year 1492. Columbus set sail, America was discovered, and the papacy became the personal plaything of the Borgia family. The conclave of 1492 saw Rodrigo Borgia, a man whose last name would become synonymous with corruption and scandal, ascend to the papal throne as Pope Alexander VI. Now, Alexander VI was a complex figure, a patron of the arts and a shrewd politician. But he was also a man who seemed to view the papacy as a way to further his family's wealth and power. Allegations of simony, which is basically a fancy word for ecclesiastical bribery, swirled around Alexander VI's election like mosquitoes at a picnic. It was said that he bribed his way to the top, promising cardinals everything from palaces to, well, let's just say favors to secure their votes. And once he became pope, he wasn't shy about using his position to reward his family and allies. He appointed his son, Cesare Borgia, as a cardinal when Cesare was just 18 years old. The Borgia Pope's reign was a whirlwind of lavish parties, political intrigue, and, if the rumors are to be believed, some truly scandalous behavior. It was like a real-life soap opera, except with more poisonings and less daytime TV. Chapter 4, 1559, the Medici Popes, because running Florence wasn't enough. By the time the 16th century rolled around, the papacy was looking a bit like a used car lot after a hailstorm, a little worse for wear, and in desperate need of some serious reform. Enter the conclave of 1559, a gathering that would see the powerful Medici family, those Florentine bankers who treated art patronage like a competitive sport, tighten their grip on the papacy. This conclave was a battleground of political maneuvering, with France and Spain the powerhouses of the day vying for influence. The cardinals themselves were divided, split into factions with their own agendas. In the end, Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Medici emerged victorious, taking the name Pius IV. Now, Pius IV wasn't a Medici by blood, but he was closely aligned with the family, having been appointed cardinal by none other than Pope Clement VII, a Medici pope himself. Pius IV's election cemented the Medici family's influence over the papacy, an influence that would continue for decades. They used their power to further their own ambitions, turning the papacy into a tool for their own political and financial gain. It was a time when the lines between church and state were about as clear as a mud puddle after a rainstorm. Chapter 5, 1903, Veto Power, when emperors played papal matchmaker. Our final stop on this whirlwind tour of papal controversy takes us to the 20th century and the conclave of 1903. By this point, you'd think the process of selecting a pope might have gotten a little less, shall we say, eventful. You'd be wrong. This conclave saw a blatant use of secular power in a supposedly sacred election, and it all went down because of a veto. The leading candidate for the papacy was Cardinal Mariano Rampolla del Tindaro, a man who, by all accounts, was a capable and experienced diplomat. However, there was one little problem. Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria-Hungary really didn't want Rampolla to become pope. Why? Well, Rampolla was seen as too friendly to France, Austria-Hungary's rival, and Franz Joseph wasn't about to let some French-loving pope mess with his empire. So what did Franz Joseph do? He did what any self-respecting emperor on the verge of losing his grip on power would do. He threw a temper tantrum. He invoked a centuries-old tradition, the jus exclusivi, which basically gave Catholic monarchs the power to veto a papal candidate. It was like a diplomatic trump card, and Franz Joseph slammed it down on the table, effectively blackballing Rampolla from the papacy. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through some of the most controversial papal conclaves in history. From hermit popes to papal schisms, from bribery scandals to imperial vetoes, it's clear that the road to the papacy has never been a straight or particularly holy one. These stories are a reminder that even the most sacred institutions are run by people, and people, as we all know, are messy, flawed, and often more interested in power than piety. But hey, that's what makes history so damn interesting, right? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more intriguing historical tales. See you next time.